そこまで来るとは。
何を怯えているのだ、レオン。
怯えてなどご冗談はおよしください。私はただ予想よりわずかばかり強いと。
そうかしら。確かに震えている様子ですが。
黙れバール。
もうよい。
アビス様、我々の脅威になりそうな目は早いうちに積んだ方がよろしいかと。
それはそうだが、
その役目は確かバールのはずですが。
自分では怖くてできないのですか？
何？
ともかく私に命を下せるのはアビス様ただお一人。
バール貴様、
やめんかバール。レオンの言葉も確かなことだ。言ってやれ。
はい、ちょうど退屈してたところですから。
レオン、それにしても慎重な男だな、お前は。
Welcome to the final and longest stage in the game. It's nearly twice as long as the other stages, perhaps almost exactly twice as long. Some of that may be due to the fact that I have insisted upon not grinding at all. But I think the majority of the blame goes to the layout of the level itself. That's not to say it's a bad level, though. But I do think it's the first stage where you need to backtrack any meaningful distance. The new enemies introduced in this stage look kinda pretty, but they're not all that trying to deal with. Most of them have gimmicks, like Mech Bird here, only has projectile attacks and is useless in close quarters combat. The awkward yet appropriately named Robot is less useless in close quarters combat. It only has one attack where it repeatedly smacks you with its right arm. Very easy to block. It does have a flamethrower for long range though. Maybe the most versatile enemy in the entire level. It is thankfully the perfect height for all of the hits in our 5-hit combo to connect. Over here is another medallion. And I finally managed to ask someone who knew a little bit of Japanese what that says when you pick up the medallion, and they told me it says, and hold on, let me pick up the exact quote here. The something metal something. So yeah, they couldn't read most of it. And I was prepared to deliver the bad news, but I looked around on the Japanese Google nets, and I found a couple of websites that say that by collecting all the medallions, you unlock the end boss characters for Versus mode. Each set of medallions pertains to a different end boss character, but I don't think we're going to be able to collect them all, and even if we did, it wouldn't matter, because we're not going to be looking at the Versus mode. It's exactly the same as the boss fights in the main mode. But hey, now you all know what the secret of the medallions is. We need to jump on this, but that never happened. Pressing this switch just makes a straight bridge, nothing we have to platform on or anything. I like how it unfolds though, that's a neat detail. I mean, yeah, it's just stretching the model, but it stretches in a way that makes sense with the model's textures, so that's fine. This is the Mech Air, and in spite of it looking really impressive, it has an attack that we can just run straight in the middle of, and just punch it in the torso. Its shots go on either side of our body, so it's practically useless, and it can't hurt us while we're close to it. You might notice that for this level, they really went all out for the wall textures. In the other levels, a lot of the wall textures and scenery are just flat, but this one's all dressed up and pretty. It also has the most complicated looking enemies, texture-wise. This stage has 2 mini-bosses that would be genuinely difficult if we weren't playing as Blood. This is one of them. Tank number 29 has a lot of projectiles, but none of them reach as far as our own fireball does. Don't get me wrong, they do reach pretty damn far, but it's possible to stand just outside of the range. And also I meant tank number 28, not 29. The window I used to record this is significantly smaller than the actual video size. But yes, it would be very difficult to get up close and personal to this boss. It would also be way harder to stun lock it if we didn't have this giant fireball. I'm not sure what that shield on its shoulder is for. As far as I know, it never uses it, but it might if we actually got close. I'm going to bet it doesn't, though. So when I was digging around looking for what the medals do in this game, I found a couple of reviews. One of them of interest was from 2012, because there were very few reviews that actually came out when this game did. It wasn't a very popular game, in case you can't tell. But the review from 2012 compared this game to both Princess Crown and Die Hard Arcade 2. And you might notice, if you know anything about either of those games, that this game is absolutely nothing like them. Like, he could have picked any other action RPG imaginable and any other beat-em-up imaginable, and it probably would have made more sense than those two. It did make me wonder, though, at the time, if this game was something of an oddity, because I can think of some 3D beat-em-ups that came out around this time. Not a lot of them, but there are some. Lucifering, what was that? Crisis Beat? But none of them were quite like this. If anything, this game is the precursor to a lot of games in the 6th generation, where mixing adventure with platforming and melee combat became very popular. That genre was pretty far-reaching for a while, but it died out very hard. Up here we're going to need to work ourselves against a conveyor belt that's actively running against us, and we need to run at an angle or else we'll fall right off. At this angle precisely. Or else we'll be pushed right off the edge. Unfortunately, those cranes have other ideas. Now, it is possible to jump over the cranes while you're on the conveyor belt, but we don't exactly have the most space. And damn, those cranes kinda hurt. Smooth. This guy is an obvious reskin of the rock golem from earlier, but he has an entirely different moveset. They're both equally easy to block, though. I do think this is the only time this enemy type appears, but I could be wrong about that. The other golem only appeared twice, though, so it wouldn't be that surprising. Some areas in this level are completely pitch black, usually around corners. I assume to make it more difficult to navigate. But the dark sections are very small. For some reason I decided it would be in my best interest to attack all of the robots in this hallway instead of running past them. I'm sure Past Me had a reason for doing this. I sure as hell can't tell you what, though. It's not like we need the extra levels. Maybe it was to make it easier to platform on this conveyor belt up here. Once again, we do have to work against the conveyor belt, which means we run very slowly. This time there are 3 cranes and lasers. To avoid the lasers, we just jump over them. The cranes aren't so easy, but there is a gap in between each of them that we can use to our advantage. And after we stop getting stuck on the wall, there's a tiny maze in here, populated by a mech air, which we've already covered is useless. This tiny maze leads to another key because it's almost mini-boss time again. Oh dear. We got clotheslined by that spider. I would say that the game treats the mech air like an important enemy for absolutely no reason, but really, almost all of the normal enemies are cake. After I kill this mech air and take the key, I unfortunately make a really dumb decision and take the long way around back to the entrance of this place. Yeah, so I'm just gonna skip ahead a bit. Right, we're back here and we just need to hang a right and we'll make our way to the second mini-boss. This one is incredibly similar to the previous one. I believe it even shares a few of its moves. It does have a couple new ones as well. But the strategy is the same, except with more blocking. I would say that I really like the atmosphere that the giant fan provides, but it's impossible to see it from this angle. We just get a whole bunch of eyeballs to look at. With him out of the way, all that's left is the trek to the boss, and the weirdest part of the stage on the way. There's some very strange things up ahead. And after we get done floating to the bottom here, we're going to head toward that strange, one of those strange things right away. The strangest, in fact. It's a brain in a jar. And it says something to us. I have no idea what it said to us, but we're gonna need to come back here and talk to Mr. Brain later. This section of the level has mines, and it has vents that shoot out painful steam. Both of which we should avoid running into. Really, you can very easily jump over both of those hazards if you time it well enough. The mines aren't all that different from the explosive crates. The mines aren't all that different from the explosive crates in Gunrock Plains. Here is, I believe, the last time that we'll have to cross the conveyor belt. This one is also working against us, but it's a small area to cross, so even if we did get knocked back to the start, it would only take a few seconds to get back over. There's multiple pathways we can choose from right here. We're going to go forward, which it may not be obvious which way forward is to you, but I know where it is. We're actually very near the place the level ends at, which is to say we're near the boss door, but you may have noticed that we have no key. And we're not going to get the key before we get there. Here's another one of those switches. Let's hope this time I can actually land on the switch. Nope, every time. In the interest of switching things up, even though this switch is exactly the same as the last one, this time the flooring from the floor below comes up, instead of a bridge extending across horizontally. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, they could have easily just made two of the same kind of bridge. Yes, I did cut out the battle in this room, and that's because it was really embarrassing and I just got knocked to the ground over and over. And I don't have any commentary for that. So this guy has a golden thing above his head, which you might figure means he drops the key. Well, he drops something. He drops bars of gold. The bars of gold are not a key, though, so we can't go in that door. Let's see what we can do with this gold. Yeah, we have to get the gold from a robot, take it to a talking brain who will then activate that press for us so we can turn it into a key. I'm sure that makes a lot of sense in the intended context. Either way, now we can get to the boss door.
レムリアの元へ行こうとしている愚か者よ。
恐ろしいくらいに気が渦巻いて、今までの奴らとは違う。
This boss is not one of the 8 starter characters, she is one of the special end boss characters. Her moves aren't all that intimidating though, and she has the same weakness as every other character, meaning she is very easily grabbed. Rarely does anything about it. So that's how we're going to defeat her. It's a shame that the bosses are so easily cheesed out by projectiles and grabs. But most of this game is easy to begin with, so I suppose that fits at least.
まさかこれほど力をつけていたとは。しかしまあよ
待て、逃げる。待て。